The night had settled over the city like a heavy velvet curtain, swallowing the horizon and muting every distant sound. In the middle of that thick silence, a lone taxi cruised along the empty highway, its headlights slicing two narrow paths through the darkness. Inside, a young woman sat motionless, her fingers wrapped tightly around the handle of a small, battered suitcase resting beside her. She hardly blinked, barely breathed, and every few seconds, her eyes flicked toward the suitcase as if something inside it was alive, breathing, waiting. Her name was Saria, 22 years old, quiet, withdrawn, someone who carried storms inside her bones, but never let them show on her face. That night, she had locked the last door of her home behind her, leaving behind her past, her mistakes, her guilt, and taking only one thing with her: the old, locked suitcase. The one she could not open. The one no one could open. The taxi driver kept glancing at her through the rear-view mirror, uneasy with her silence. "Where to, miss?" he finally asked. She answered with only 2 words: "Railway station." Her voice sounded like it had been dragged out of a deep, cold well. When she stepped out at the station, the air was thick with dampness, metallic and heavy, like rain and rust whispering secrets to each other. It was late, and the platform was nearly empty. Far in the corner stood an old wooden bench, and somehow, the first thread of this nightmare began to unwind there. Saria placed the suitcase beside her and took a slow breath. As she lowered herself to sit, she heard footsteps behind her, soft, deliberate. She turned quickly. No one, only the wind brushing past her, grazing the suitcase's corners. And she could have sworn something moved inside the suitcase. Her throat tightened. Something was in there, something that didn't belong to her, something that didn't belong anywhere. She pulled her jacket closer around her. There were questions in her eyes, fear tangled with guilt, dread stitched with hesitation. She wasn't just running away. She was being pulled towards something, or maybe back to something. The train was still minutes away. Restless, she shifted her place again. And that's when she saw him, a stranger standing at a distance, watching her. His gaze was fixed directly on her, and the suitcase, as if he knew what was inside. Saria quickly looked away. When she checked again a moment later, he was gone, vanished like he'd never been there at all. But the air had changed. Suddenly, the suitcase jolted. A sharp, small thud from inside. Saria froze. Someone, something, had knocked from inside. Once, twice, then softer, slower, as if a trapped child was pressing weak fists against the walls. Her breath caught in her throat. This was not the first time she had heard it. She had been living with these knocks for months, but never this clear, never this awake. She leaned forward, trembling. The lock was firm, not loose, not broken, solid from the outside, but inside. Something was struggling, something chained, something restless. The distant rumble of an approaching train rolled across the tracks. Light spread over the rails, growing brighter, drawing nearer, bringing her closer to a decision she had been avoiding for far too long. 2 lives stood before her, her broken past, and her unknown future. But the suitcase, it was the tree rooted between them, its invisible branches gripping her ankles, pulling her backward. The train screeched to a stop. Doors opened, passengers boarded. Saria didn't move, but after a long moment, she picked up the suitcase and got on. The train whistled sharply, cutting through the night as it pulled away. Saria stared out the window at the passing shadows of buildings dissolving into the dark. Then another jolt. The suitcase shifted. This time, a whisper leaked out. Barely a breath, barely a voice. "Let me out." Her soul dropped into a pit. She didn't cover her ears, because the sound wasn't coming from the outside. It was crawling directly into her mind. The passengers around her were normal, unaware, but the whisper grew louder. "Please, open." Saria closed her eyes tightly. She had lived haunted by this voice, woken up night after night by its cry. Because she knew the voice, she recognized the echo. It was a voice she once loved, her little brother's voice. The train floor vibrated. The suitcase slid a few inches. She grabbed it instantly. The weight had shifted. Inside, something or someone had moved to a different corner. Alive, breathing, waiting. The train slowed for the next station. Saria stood, lifted the suitcase, and stepped off. This platform was almost empty. Cold air clung to her skin, but the silence was different here, thicker, like it hid something heavy beneath its breath. The suitcase was warming in her hand, heat pulsing through it, like something inside was waking up. She walked to a deserted corner of the platform. A lone red bulb flickered above, swaying gently, like its own spirit was exhausted. She set the suitcase on the ground and sat before it. After a long, trembling pause, she whispered, "I'm here, you can speak now." Silence. Then a faint tapping from inside, like fingernails tracing lines in wood. Then a voice, "You left me. Why?" Tears spilled down Saria's cheeks. Her throat clenched. "I didn't leave you. I was trying to save you." A soft sob rolled from the suitcase's hollow interior. Saria broke down. "Ali, I couldn't save you. I tried. Footsteps. She looked up. The man from before. The stranger was standing there again. But this time, his eyes were not alive. They were hollow, empty, as if he carried someone else's shadow inside his skin. He came closer, stopping near her. "Why have you kept it locked for so long?" he asked in a cold, slow voice. Saria recoiled. "Who are you?" He didn't answer. He moved closer to the suitcase. "It wants to come out. You can't stop it anymore." Her voice cracked. "No, if I open it, Ali won't come out. Something else will." A thin, unnatural smile cracked across the man's face. "You're too late to understand anything now." He reached out his hand. The suitcase trembled. The lock began to heat under invisible pressure. Inside, something pushed. Hard, urgent, desperate. The whispers turned to cries. Saria screamed, "Stop, please." But the stranger's eyes dimmed further, swallowed by darkness. "It's time. You said you wanted to save him. Now face the truth." The lock snapped open. The lid inched upward. Something inside shoved against it. The air shook with a force not human. Saria lunged forward, slammed the suitcase shut with all her strength, and sat on top of it. The suitcase buckled under the force. The thing inside thrashed, screamed, clawed, each strike shaking the floor beneath her. Her hands trembled violently, breath breaking, tears streaming. The stranger hissed, "You cannot hold it back." Saria shouted, "I'm not holding him back. I'm holding back the thing that killed him." For the first time, fear flickered in the stranger's dead eyes. "How do you know?" Saria glared through tears. "Because it speaks. In a voice that isn't his." The stranger stumbled backward. His form blurred, as if fog swallowed him from the inside, and he dissolved into the cold air, leaving behind nothing but silence. Inside the suitcase, the attacks grew weaker, quieter, then faded. Complete, terrifying stillness. Saria collapsed to the ground, exhausted. The suitcase sat before her, closed, silent, cold once more. She whispered, "I'm sorry, Ali. I didn't let it escape." She picked it up and walked toward the exit. The night gathered behind her like a curtain closing on a stage, while some unseen presence watched her leave. The suitcase now felt lighter, much lighter, as if its last burden had drifted away. But just as she reached the station gate, a faint knock tapped from inside. A small voice whispered, "Sister?" Saria froze. Her blood ran cold. She slowly turned her head toward the suitcase. The night fell silent. The air held its breath. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, and she whispered, "Ali?" The suitcase went quiet again, and on Saria's face, a fragile line appeared. A line that blurred the boundary between a human and the fear that owns them. She knew whatever was inside now, it wasn't just hers anymore. And the story was far from over.